Story 1. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my husband's affair baby live with us for a while? I married my husband very young. 3 years into our marriage, we got a divorce because he had an affair and got his mistress pregnant. We were split for 5 years. Then decided we had changed as people and reconciled for our daughter we had before the divorce and for ourselves, with the help of counseling. We've now been together for 6 years. During the years apart, I had another child with a serious partner who sadly passed away. A few days ago, we got a call from my husband's ex-mistress. She says her job wanted to fly her out of state this weekend for an opportunity, but it's impossible with her son, and asked us if we would be willing to take him in on short notice. Usually, my husband gets a hotel and stays with his son when she flies out. But she said this time would be a longer-term stay. I told my husband, absolutely not. That wasn't happening. He said I was being unfair and that he cares for my daughter, who's from my late partner, like his own, and I should do the same. I screamed at him and said, my daughter isn't the product of my affair. Absolutely no way is he staying here. He got angry and said that I was being ridiculous and a shrew, because the child is innocent. In my eyes, it hurts me too much to look at that boy. Am I the a-hole? No, I don't think so. It's not that kind of a thing. This son was a result of an affair. You two were separated and divorced and were not a thing when the woman had the baby with a serious partner. And that's a different situation. I think he would just have to find a way to arrange for something longer term outside of it. I really also think that probably need to go a little to address therapy a little more if this is becoming an issue. It sounds like there's still some unresolved problems that this affair is still dividing you two over, even this long after you've gone so far to reconcile. Story 2. School admin spanked my kid without permission. What do I do in terms of prosecution? Hi all. We're in Texas, near Houston. My son is in 3rd grade. There is another boy in his grade with the exact same name whose parents have given permission for him to be spanked in school. I have not. I'm sure you can imagine where this is going. The boys were mixed up, and my son was spanked after running away from class. He wet himself and was sent back to class in his wet clothes, where his class teacher finally called me. He's really upset. I do not hit my children, and he was spanked hard enough to leave marks hours after it happened. I've taken photos as it's all faded now. I've got him booked in to see a therapist and be assessed if that will help at all. He's regressed horrifically following the incident, and his general pediatrician thinks we could be looking at years of trauma therapy. I cannot explain to you how bad this is. The school apologized to me over the phone and in an email said that they're updating their system to have the children's faces be used as the confirmation rather than the name. That's all. I'm so angry. I don't know what to do. I'm trying not to rage because he doesn't need that. So I'm hoping someone can point me in the right direction here. I do not want to go to the media if I can help it because following my son around could make recovery even harder for him. Thank you to anyone who has advice. Well, hopefully someone in the comments will be able to give this kind of advice because I'm not sure what to do. I've never lived in Texas. And yeah, you're facing some bills here that it sounds like someone in the school system should be able to handle. And if they don't, why do they not have some kind of mental health care for kids other than this is Texas? Yeah, I know that's facetious. But what do you think? Do they have legal recourses that do not involve the kid? Story 3. I broke up with my girlfriend over Earpods today. It was awesome. My girlfriend, female 22, and I, male 25, have been dating for almost a year now. She's in university, living in the university residence. I work full-time and have my own place. Her residence has some very strict rules, such as no male guests aside from parents and a strict curfew. This will be important later. We're not in the U.S., by the way. Before the Easter holidays, a few friends and I planned a road trip. I invited her, but she declined. The day before my road trip, I decided to get some new earbuds for the trip. My girlfriend came with me to the shop. Once there, my girlfriend decided that she would like a new pair of AirPods. I relented and bought her a pair and got myself some Boss earbuds since I preferred those and I don't have an iPhone. On our way back to the university, she mentioned that she liked my earbuds since they look better than her AirPods. She took them, paired them to her phone, and started playing around with them. I didn't think much of it until she said she wanted them and wanted to trade her AirPods with my earbuds. I told her no because I don't have an iPhone, so AirPods would be useless to me. Found out later that they work pretty well on Android, and that we can exchange hers when I get back since going back now would make her late for curfew. She kept insisting that it would make her happy. I told her I needed them for my trip in the morning, which seemed to be the end of it. We got to her residence, and as I was parking, she threw her AirPods at me and said, "Thanks for the trade," then jumped out of the moving car, still wearing my earbuds. I was shocked, and it took me a second to realize that she had just run away with my earbuds. I parked and then ran after her, but I wasn't fast enough. She had already entered the building. I stood at the entrance with two very burly guards giving me the stink eye while I shouted for her to come back. She just blew me a kiss and went upstairs. I shouted a bit more until the guards very politely asked me to leave. I was livid. She had just robbed me, and there was nothing I could do. I stalked back to my car, fuming and cursing. However, I started laughing when I got to my car because there on the ground, near the passenger side door, was a lovely white box. It seems in her mad dash to run away, she had accidentally dropped the charging case. I picked it up. My day suddenly brighter and drove back to the shop. I exchanged the AirPods and got new earbuds, then blocked her, and the next morning went for the road trip. I unblocked her when I got back yesterday, ready to deal with the big storm, and called her. At first, she was sweet and asked about my trip. Then she asked if she had left the charging case for her earbuds in my car. I told her that I had returned the AirPods and exchanged them for new earbuds, and that since my new earbuds didn't work with my old charging case, I had thrown it away because I didn't need it. That triggered her, and she started shouting at me, calling me a jerkwad, and demanding that I get her a new pair of earbuds or we're done. I said, "Okay, I guess we're done," and then hung up. I've been laughing ever since. It seems you were really able to go back and exchange the AirPods for new earbuds. It kind of sounds like this argument could have been avoided, but you decided to go through with it because she just seems very selfish. Just really, thanks for it, just claiming prima boyfriend or prima nocte on your earbuds for some reason. But I guess it all worked out. I mean, do you think it sounds like there was some issues he was dealing about with this girl long before this situation? Or was this just something that came out of the blue? Story 4. Boss agrees with secretary that I am not the office manager, so I stopped managing the office. When I was doing my articles at a small law firm, internship to be admitted as an attorney, I was the go-to person for everything at the office. Setting up computers, buying stationery, paying bills, going to court, seeing clients, etc. After being admitted as an attorney, I continued doing all of this because the secretary only did about 20% of what a secretary would usually do and refused to do anything else. My boss does some shady business, doesn't pay taxes, etc., so he couldn't just fire her for fear of her ratting him out. He also never disciplined her. We're not in the U.S. Since we worked from my boss's mother's house, the secretary also spent about 50% of her day just chatting with his mother, and they became fast friends. Guess who was always the evil one that everyone ganged up on? Yours truly. I was made out to be incompetent at my job, and I used to cry a lot and almost became an alcoholic from work stress. One day, the secretary got really upset with me after I asked her to buy stationery since we didn't even have staples, and after a heated argument, told me that I'm not the office manager and should stop lording it about as if I was. Bear in mind, I was her senior, both as an attorney and in number of years worked at the firm. My boss did nothing and rather got upset with me, and so did his mother. I decided there and then that I am done doing both secretary work and my attorney work because I was working roughly 50 or 60 hours per week, standard is 40, trying to get everything done without receiving overpay. The unemployment rate in my country is around 30%, and in the legal field, supply of lawyers exceeds demand. She knew this, and my boss knew this, but no one cared that I was basically working myself into an early grave. Cue malicious compliance. If everyone agrees that I am not the office manager, then I will stop managing the flow of the office and only do my attorney work. I stop paying the bills, buying the stationery, reminding my boss of important meetings, etc. Within 2 weeks, the electricity was cut off for 10 days because it wasn't paid, and my boss's elderly mother and the rest of his family had no electricity. We could also not work for those 10 days. Once the electricity went on, the phone lines were cut because of non-payment. We could not work again. The post piled up, there was no stationery, we couldn't do service of court documents because our services providers cut us off. It went on for weeks. I simply worked around the issues and sorted my life out. One example: when the Wi-Fi was off, I used my cell phone to hotspot my laptop without telling anyone. In the end, my boss and his mother begged me to do what I used to do, but I refused. Since I was focusing more on my actual work, my fees increased and my pay increased as well. Shortly thereafter, I moved away from that office to our secondary office and worked alongside lovely colleagues who did all of what they got paid to do. I have been at this new office, same firm, just a different location, for the last 2 years. Perfect. Yeah, I thought they were going to offer this person more pay, but this person was just doing fine on their own. This lawyer is well on their way to starting their own law firm, and you can bet that this person will be closely interviewing for a secretary that will really and truly manage the office.
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 5. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my fiancé before the wedding because he has a child? I, 25, and my ex, 27, met when I was 20. He was a bartender back then. We immediately started dating. He was cute and funny. We had an amazing relationship until 1 week ago. We have a wonderful daughter, too. We didn't get married in 5 years because he didn't want to. He's always said that he's okay with living together, but he doesn't want to get married. I was not okay with that, but I got pregnant. Pregnancy stress, baby stress, etc. I didn't think much about it. 3 months ago, he proposed to me. Out of nowhere. He was in a hurry. He just wanted to get married immediately. So we planned the wedding. I thought he changed his mind. When I posted his proposal on Insta, I got a message. A woman around my age DM'd me showing his son's pictures, who is almost 5. I was shocked and confronted my fiancé about this. I showed him the pictures and messages. He started crying. I comforted him for almost 2 hours. Then he started to tell me about this woman. They met at a bar where he worked. Our relationship was 1 or 2 weeks old by that time. He didn't think much about it and slept with her. She told him that she's getting an abortion, but she didn't get one. She learned that 3 months ago when she was back in town. He was scared that I'll leave him, so he wanted to get married. I broke up with him, and I'm very sure about my decision. But Mai and his parents are telling me that I'm wrong, we were new, and I can't break up with him because of something that happened 5 years ago. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know how many times he cheated because he didn't think we will make it this far. He said only once, but I don't believe him. I'm disgusted. I'm confused because of my daughter. He's a daddy's girl. I don't want to separate my daughter and his dad. Maybe I can just close my eyes and forgive him? I don't know. Well, it sounds like there might be some therapy. He did go about it the wrong way by trying to cover it up by proposing and wanting to get married. Probably should have just fessed up. And I know that's a riskier thing. But if someone was trying to get married and then you found out wanted to get married to you and then found out later that they have a kid with someone else, but it was very early on in the relationship, or they confronted you about this and were truthful up front, you might be more inclined to believe them if they said that that was the only time. This was kind of new. I think there needs to be more discussion about this, and at least definitely put off the wedding. There's a lot at stake, and there's a kid at stake here, too. Story 6. My uncle took revenge on behalf of my parents. As the title gives away, this didn't happen to me, but it is the story of how my uncle avenged my parents. My parents had me when they were plenty young. They were not teens anymore, but had barely left that age bracket. My mom and dad met in college. That was also when they had me. So while my parents were in their courses, I mostly stayed with my grandparents. The whole family lives in the same area, and the college was not that far away. My parents were still young and liked to go out with friends on occasion. When the following happened, I was a few years old. On occasion, they frequented a bar. A drunk guy there groped my mom and did not take a no as a no. My dad intervened and stopped the guy. And half an hour later, all seemed forgotten. The music was loud, the bar was crowded, and then someone in the crowd hit my dad with an empty glass pitcher square in the face. He was bleeding profusely and collapsed. But in the press, semi-darkness, and over the music, no one knew who did it. My dad got taken to the hospital. He had a broken nose and a heavy concussion. He also couldn't see who had attacked him, and his memory between the alcohol and being hit in the head was also very fuzzy. Of course, they had considered the guy who had harassed my mom, but they didn't know him, nor did they see him anywhere leading up to the moment, let alone have any evidence. So they pressed charges against the unknown. But there was virtually nothing anyone could do. But then a few days later, the piece of trash that had harassed my mom approached her on campus. Turns out he was in the same college as my parents. He made a few veiled comments and left little doubt it had been him that hit my dad in the face. And the piece of garbage let my mom know that my dad next time should mind his manners, and that the little touching he had done didn't hurt anyone and wasn't that bad. And if he wanted to do it again, he would, and maybe more. And then the piece of trash went on his merry way. My mom was horrified, of course. She went home and told my grandparents, my dad, his parents. But No one could do anything. It was a he said, she said deal, after all. And my mom hadn't even gotten the guy's name. My mom cried a lot at the time and didn't know what to do. She also was afraid of going to classes or out alone. I honestly only remember that time very scarcely. I was just a kid, but I can remember my dad in the hospital and with his broken nose. And my mom is crying a lot. My dad, of course, was just as angry and humiliated as my mom. No one knew what to do. Everyone was treading on eggshells around each other. But that is where my uncle enters the stage. My uncle, my mom's brother, lived on the other side of the country. He was a private investigator, and he was, of course, the last to hear the full story. But the moment he heard someone had threatened his little sister, he was on his way home. After hearing the full story, my uncle knew it would likely be hard to get the guy on the harassment, the assault, or the threats, having no evidence. My uncle had my mom point the guy out from afar on campus. It took a few days to find him. But then my uncle started to stalk that piece of human filth. My uncle took sick days, all his vacation, and invested every second possible to find out everything about the harasser. My uncle even approached the pig in another bar and became drinking buddies with him. Over several weeks, my uncle had uncovered all manners of illicit behavior: possession, consumption, and distribution of illicit substances, theft, and a few other misdemeanors and small-time stuff. And my uncle could have put him away for that. But my uncle always said when asked about that if he sent that jerkwad to prison, it would be for violating my mom and hurting my dad. And that's what he did. One night, while out with his new buddy drinking, my uncle made the idiot completely drunk, and they landed in my uncle's motel room. He got the harasser to incriminate himself on video, ratting off a list of illegal stuff he was up to. My uncle had, of course, pretended to be a crook too. Among the stories the jerkwad told was the story about how he groped some chick and brainwashed her dude with a pitcher of beer. Now, something needs to be said. In my country, of course, recording someone in secret is illegal, and under some conditions, like if the police does it. It's not a permissible piece of evidence in court. But as a PI, my uncle knew the laws for that exactly. But paradoxically, the situation is different if it is not only audio, but also video. And my uncle had that jerkwad on camera confessing. The next day, my uncle turned himself into the police with all his collected evidence, because secretly filming people was still a crime. Though the video could be used as evidence in court, as my uncle was not affiliated with the police or any other government agency. When the criminal trial and the civil trial were over, that jerkwad got 6 years in prison and had to pay damages to my mom and dad. And my uncle got slapped with the equivalent of a $2,000 fine for secretly filming the jerkwad. Money well spent, he always said. Count the cost of your actions. This guy didn't count the cost of his actions when he did what he did. And I got so mad when he's sitting here groping a woman and then telling the man to mind his manners. And way to know the law, know what your rights are, and know how to defend yourself. And this uncle deserves all the praise for that. Well done.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.